You're listening to Hop and Vetiver, Accidental Anarchists by Sibeppa. This book is a work of fiction. Any references to historical events, real people, or real places are used fictitiously. Other names, characters, places, and events are products of the author's imagination, and any resemblance to actual events or places or persons living or dead is entirely coincidental. Copyright 2018 by Sibeppa. All rights reserved, including the right to reproduce this book or portions thereof in any form whatsoever. For information, contact Sibeppa's blogs at gmail.com. This book is dedicated to you. 1. Hop takes a life. Hop opened his eyes and stared out over the water into the apocalypse-colored sunset. The sun touched the sea, the deck, and the bridge of his nose with its last candy-orange beams. Though hazy and sluggish today, the ancient orb was still going west faster than he was. "Excuse me, sir, are you feeling all right?" Hop turned. He almost stumbled, but leaned back on the rusty railing to disguise his lack of coordination. The man who had spoken smiled a helpful smile. He wore a light blue crew uniform unraveling at the edges. The laminated label on his breast pocket read, "Andre." "Yeah, I'm okay. My foot got stuck between the steps when I got on, but it's not as bad as it looks. Ankle wounds bleed a lot, you know." Hop's new voice was gravelly, rusty from hard years of thankless drudgery. This was the first time he'd used it. He attempted a sheepish grin, but it faltered into a lopsided sneer. This face had been unaccustomed to smiling, and the muscles had atrophied. The crewman stared at him. So persistent, Hop thought. Too bad I don't need help. Or maybe this guy's an undercover policeman. A Gestapo, a soft-eyed, cold-blooded killer. Hop shifted his weight, and the ankle slewed under him. It was in bad shape. He had been more concerned about getting out of former San Antonio than the health of his current body. Now, as he tried to move it back and forth, he realized his foot was torn almost halfway off his leg. This guy, Andre, must have followed his crimson footprints around the warped sheet metal deck to where they stood now. The men locked eyes for an awkward moment as the sun drowned in the polluted water. Hop always felt lowest at the end of the day. What to do, he thought. No point bandaging it. This body sucks. Hop hated wasting time. "Listen, Andre," he began, not sure how to route the conversation, when the air beside the crewman split in half. Two gray-hooded figures shimmered out of the rift. Hop froze, his half-formed sentence dying in a hiss, then focused all of his being at the crewman. For an instant he felt weightless, then he crash-landed in Andre's consciousness. Every time he switched bodies, he felt a little disoriented. He thought of it as a kind of whiplash. Andre's consciousness was still sharp, but it would fade within a few hours. Hop's previous body crumpled to the deck. "Sir!" Andre cried, rushing over to him. "Are you all right?" That question sounds stupider every time I hear it, Hop thought. Andre bent down and pressed his fingers to the cadaver's throat. No pulse. "I need a defibrillator," the crewman yelled. Was the one in the cafeteria still functional? He would go find it anyway. He turned around, facing the hooded figures but not registering their existence. "No," Hop commanded. "You need to tell the captain about this. Hurry!" Andre wheeled around and rushed down the deck. A pair of seagulls fluttered up from the railing as he passed, screaming insults. Underneath the noise, Hop heard pattering feet behind him. He turned Andre's head to scope out the threat. The figures were small, about the size of a human preteen, but they scurried more like insects than children. Both were shrouded in tattered cloaks that fell to their knobby brown knees. Their bare feet were blurs of speed, and they carried long spears with curved blades that glittered with their own otherworldly light. One shouted something, but over the sound of his own clattering boots, Hop didn't catch exactly what. "Hurry!" Hop commanded Andre. The seaman quickened his pace, job-issued boots slipping on the decaying surface. A door swung open in his path, and he slipped, fell, slid along the swaying deck. The soft footsteps scuttled closer, rapid, certain of their prey. "My apologies," a man in a brown suit exclaimed as he stepped from the door. "Can you direct us to the nearest restroom?" "Sorry, Crewman Andre pushed himself up to his knees. The other man's suit used to be fashionable and expensive. A woman stood beside him, twisting blonde hair around her fingers. She also gave an impression of faded wealth with her wilted floral dress, vintage jewelry, and shoes in the early stages of falling apart. A pale, unsmiling girl stood between them like an afterthought. The threats closed in to only about 5 feet away. Hop didn't have time to second-guess himself. He fled. Andre clunked back down on the deck, unmoving. "Honey!" The woman clutched at her husband's frayed jacket with a thin, bony hand. They knelt down and turned Andre's body over, then the man felt for a pulse. "Go find a first aid kit, Sharon." The woman nodded and hurried away. The little girl wandered over to the railing and stared into the water. It was brown and smooth aside from a plastic bag coiling in the current. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," she read. The cloaked figures stood beside the man as he observed Andre's still body. They murmured to each other in tones as inaudible to the man as their faint footsteps. The evening wind hummed against their long blades. Then they stepped back through the air, returning to wherever they'd apparated from. Where are they going? Why won't they leave me alone? Well, at least I don't have to worry about my foot anymore. Or that guy, Andre. Hop looked down at blonde hair parted in a razor-sharp line. The little girl was so short he seemed to be hovering above her. It was a different vantage point than Hop was used to, but he'd never adhered to a child before. Things must work a little different with them. He couldn't tell what she was thinking. I guess kids just don't think very much, Hop surmised, or maybe she has something wrong with her. Maybe she's just not very smart. I wish people would stop assuming that, the girl said, looking up and frowning at Hop. I'm fine. She had evergreen eyes and hair so pale it was almost see-through. She wore a sleeveless sweater over a white dress shirt and a green plaid skirt. Her eyes were a touch sunken and a smattering of freckles stood out from her otherwise pallid face. Well, can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear and see you, and I think even, she waved her hand above her head. The air feels chilly where you are. You don't have a smell, though, which is fortunate. What do I look like? Vetiver, I want you to go back to the room, the man said. He sat beside the deceased and wiped his forehead with a yellowed hanky. It looked as though he'd given up on Andre. There's a can of beans left in the cooler. Have some, then get ready for bed. Yes, father. Is that man going to be all right? Her father didn't meet Vetiver's eyes. We'll see. Oh. Vetiver edged around the corpse, then stepped back through the door. She'd only taken a few steps before her father said, Remember, Vetiver, people feel uncomfortable when you whisper to yourself. Please try to repress it in public. Okay. Hop hadn't been inside the ship yet. It was pleasant for a post-revolution vessel. Thick, oily carpet sprawled in the hallway. Vetiver's loafers made soft thumping sounds as she walked. What do I look like? Hop repeated. Didn't you hear my father? Vetiver hissed. I'm not allowed to make other people uncomfortable. After they passed a few doors in silence, however, she remarked, Did you know nobody ever looks up? The waiter they'd just passed turned back, heavy feet and heavy shoes clomping on the green-gray carpet. Did you say something? No, sorry. The little girl didn't turn around. I talk to myself a lot. Hop looked up. Every few meters, a bare bulb was bolted into the popcorn-textured ceiling. Dust had collected on each fixture and turned black from the heat. So? The girl took so long to answer, Hop thought she hadn't heard him. But then she said, Psychologists say to look up for a brighter, more positive outlook on life. Shinobi know that because people never look up, ceilings are an excellent place to hide. If I were a shinobi, I would brace my feet on one side and my hands on the other and climb up. I could hide there and no one would ever find me. She stopped at a door, looked both ways, and entered a room with a bed bolted to the floor. The only other furnishings were a cabinet attached to the wall and the unavoidable dirty carpet. A small antique suitcase lay open beside the bed. What's a shinobi? What are you talking about? The girl checked her watch. It's almost time to go to sleep. She gave Hop an uncomfortable glance, then changed into a pair of pajamas, pulling on the bottoms before taking off her skirt. To break the awkwardness, Hop asked, So, where are you from? Then, with more interest, and where are you going? Vetiver ignored him. She sat down on her bed and opened the bag she carried over her shoulder. She pulled a King James Version Bible from within its depths. What are you reading? Hop tried to look over her shoulder, but she turned away to block his view. After the girl turned a couple onion-thin pages, the blonde woman from before entered the room. she tried to talk about the event. "Are you okay, honey? I'm sorry you had to see that." To which the girl responded, "It's nothing. I've been to plenty of funerals, Mother. Dead people don't shock me anymore." "Well, then, good night, Vetiver. Remember, if you have a bad dream, you can always come to sleep in our room." "Thanks, Mother. I'll be okay, though." The woman pulled the chain hanging by the door, and the bare bulb clicked out, shrouding the room in darkness. "Sleep tight." Vetiver's mom closed the door. "Your name's Vetiver? Cool." Hop hadn't had any luck at getting her to talk. He thought, she's kind of weird. Maybe she's crazy. Maybe I'm just one of many voices in her head. "Will you quit asking so many questions?" Vetiver answered. "I can't acknowledge you're around other people, nitwit. They'd think I was crazy as well as poorly adjusted. Now who are you, and why do you keep following me around?" "I don't know. I can't remember anything." "Amnesia?" "Yeah." "What's the first thing you remember?" "I was in a building and it was burning down. I got out and I was in this place called Bavaria. That's in Germany. I've been jumping from person to person ever since." "I know where Bavaria is. Why do you keep following me around?" "I can't help it. I was in that guy's body, Andre, and then some bad people, or maybe things. Anyway, some evil beings showed up and I had to switch, so now I'm stuck with you." Vetiver shot up in bed. "Are you a demon?" "No! I swear I'm not a demon. I don't know for sure what I am, but probably some kind of psionic being, okay? Nothing to freak out about." Hop had reflected on this question ever since he became aware. He thought he might be a residue of energy from whatever had set the building on fire, but he didn't tell Vetiver that. It sounded too close to the demon hypothesis. "Alright, I'm going to have to ask you to find someone else, though. For one, it's creepy having you floating there when I'm changing. You don't sound like a girl." "What do I sound like?" "You sound like a youngish grown-up guy." "What do you mean? Give me specifics here." "I don't know." "Then you've got glowing white eyes that change shape with your expression, and the rest of you is kind of a black mist. Can't you just look in a mirror?" "I don't reflect in mirrors." "Creepy! Can you go possess someone else, please?" "If I did that, you would die." "Oh. Okay, but can you turn your face away or something when I'm changing? I'm a very private person." Hop floated up to the wall, then through layers of fading plaster, drywall, and insulation until he was on the other side. He floated back. "If you change in the bathroom, I can go through the door and you won't have to worry about me looking at you." "You're like a ghost. That might come in handy." Vetiver threaded her fingers together. "So who are those people chasing you?" "I don't know. I think they're from a different dimension. They lose track of me for a while if I switch to a new body." "How come you don't fight them? You must have some kind of dark power." "No. As far as I can tell, I can't do anything psionic." "Here's what you need to do. Possess a UFC guy, and decimate them when they come after you." "I don't think that would work, especially if they're from a different dimension." Hop had never considered fighting back. "The power to go through things is kinda neat, though. Hey, will you go listen to my parents next door and see what they're talking about?" "That would be spying." "Says a guy who possesses people and then kills them when they wear out." Hop floated through the wall and into the adjoining room. He wanted to get away from Vetiver's accusation more than anything else. The room was furnished in the same faded, luxurious style as the rest of the ship. Hop watched Vetiver's parents by the light of an ornate copper lamp, bleeding green at the joints. The dad was shaving his face by the sink, while the mom sat on the bed. She was speaking in a low, worried tone. "Alzheimer's have been getting worse these past 3 nights. She was sitting up screaming when I went to check on her last night. Honey, are you sure moving to New York is all she needs?" The dad sighed, blowing lather from his mustache onto the cracked mirror. "It's common sense, Sharon. Getting away from those bleak silver memories will be good for her. She'll make new friends and forget about poor—" Hop felt himself slipping out of the room and back into Vetiver's. She'd crawled out of bed and taken several steps away from the wall, reeling him with her. "Are they talking about me?" "Yeah, I think so." "What are they saying?" "It was just getting interesting before you interrupted." Vetiver got back into bed and Hop resumed spying. "No, we're all upset about it," Sharon was saying, winding a lock of wavy pale hair through her fingers. "But Fred, she's so young to see something like that." Fred wiped his face and surveyed his work. "Honey, Leaving former California for NY will not only calm her down, but also advance my career, which will provide a comfortable life for her and a good education. FCA has no political future. We couldn't have stayed even if we wanted to. I know you know best, dear. Hop returned to Vetiver's room. What are they saying about me? Sounds like your mom is worried about your nightmares. I've been talking about myself, Hop thought, and I still don't know much about this kid, besides that she's a private person. So, what's your story? My name is Vetiver Westing, she recited. I'm 11 and a half years old. My parents sent me to live in Bleak Silver, former California, with a relative, while my father looked for work after the Psionic Revolution. They came and got me last week, and now we're moving back to the East Coast. Hop couldn't see her in the dark. Was she crying? What was that? I don't want to go. I really liked Bleak Silver, even though it was small, and I missed my Uncle James and my friend Cricket and my house. She snortled tears back. Hop hoped Vetiver couldn't see in the dimness because he was pretty sure a light bulb had just appeared above his head. Although it was a great idea, she might not benefit from it. So, you like living out west and they just took you? Did they even ask what you wanted to do? People never ask what I want. I was going to hide on the morning we left, but instead I followed my parents like a sheep. I couldn't even find Cricket to say goodbye. I'm so weak, helpless. I'm all strong in my head, but I never do the things I think I'm going to. She's going off on a tangent, Hop realized. He needed to refocus her. Have you considered running away? Yeah, but I'm just a little kid. My chances of surviving a solo trip to former California are pretty much non-existent. But you're not alone anymore. I can help you. Vetiver stopped crying and didn't say anything for a while. What you're suggesting, it sounds like a dangerous idea. Just to make sure you're not some kind of schizophrenia, are you? No, of course not. I see what you're getting at. Let me sleep on it. Okay. Vetiver's breathing slowed and steadied into a peaceful rhythm. Hop thought she was asleep when she remarked, Oh, I forgot to ask your name. I don't have one. I'll name you then. She sounded half asleep. How about Hop, if that's what you want to call me? It's the name of my pet from Bleak Silver. He died when our neighbors poured acid on his face, and my uncle and I couldn't save him. What? But Vetiver had fallen asleep. Hop hovered over her and listened to her soft breathing mingle with the sound of the waves. He couldn't sleep. He didn't think he'd ever slept. The whole concept is trippy, Hop thought. A supposedly sane person powers down and hallucinates for hours, then wakes up and acts like nothing happened. When he inhabited a body, he had to give it breaks to rest. But without real sleep, a body could only last a week and a half, tops. At around 6, Vetiver stirred, then yawned and stretched. Oh, you're still here. I thought I might have dreamed you. She rolled out of bed and stumbled into the minuscule bathroom. What did you decide? Hop asked. Out, Vetiver replied, pointing to the door. Hop complied. She emerged in a couple of minutes, fully dressed in her day clothes. She brushed her hair. As she was braiding it, she said, Hop, I've decided to run away. But we don't have a lot of time to prepare. She tied a green ribbon on the end of each plate. The first thing we need to do is pare down our possessions. She opened her bag and suitcase and dumped the contents out on the floor. We'll sort out the most important items. She pulled some books from the pile and stacked them. Hop read the titles. Call of the Wild, Ramona and Beezus, King James Bible, Vetiver Westing's personal journal, Do Not Read, and Sun Tzu's Art of War. Vetiver dropped her hairbrush, toothbrush, and Foreign Legion multi-tool into the stack. Hold on, you should keep the knife. It's a multi-tool, not a knife, Vetiver corrected him. And this is the keep pile. Oh. Vetiver deliberated for a while over an extra set of hair ribbons before deeming them essential. She zipped some bills. Hop didn't have time to count, but it looked like about 50 into a hidden inside pocket. Then she crammed everything in as space-efficiently as she could. Hop surveyed the things she'd left out, sweaters, skirts, and a Coke bottle filled with sandy dirt. Are you sure you don't need to take that bottle? He joked. I thought about it, but when we get back, there'll be Bleak Silver dirt everywhere. Come on, we need to secure some provisions before my parents wake up. Vetiver hefted her bag to her shoulder and slipped out the door. She walked down the hallway, the carpet muffling her footsteps. Although her family had only been on board for 2 days, she knew her way to the kitchen. She reached the dining room and strode in without hesitating. Looking confident was imperative to this mission. She stood before the breakfast bar and weighed her options. Several boxes of cereal in a rainbow of artificial colors waited at the front of the counter, but she knew they had to be years past the expiration date. Farther down, boiled amaranth steamed next to the limp dandelion salad and a pot of watery fennel soup. The best provisions sat at the far end of the bar, a heaping basket of sealed single-serve fruit cups floating in sugary juice that dated back to before the Revolution. The fennel would be her first choice if it was still in the can, but it wasn't, and Vetiver was not bold enough to try raiding the kitchen. She sidled up to the basket, made sure no one was looking, and stuffed 4 containers of fruit into her bag. "Did anyone see?" she whispered to Hop. The only other person in the dining room was a dull-looking waitress slopping a mop over the peeling linoleum. Her back was to them. No. "Okay." Vetiver released a deep breath, then found a paper bowl and headed for the amaranth. She stopped halfway. Sharon had warned her against the boxed cereal yesterday. It would rot her teeth and leach minerals from her body. But if she planned to run away, what difference would one bowl of cereal make? Vetiver resumed walking. There wasn't any milk, anyway. But no, that was an excuse. How could she have the courage to leave her family and trek over 1,000 miles of desert if she was afraid to choose the wrong breakfast? She stopped again. "What are you doing? People are going to notice you acting weird," Hop hissed. Vetiver grabbed the box and shook a heaping serving of processed garbage into her bowl, spilling a few pieces onto the floor. The girl with the mop glared, but by then Vetiver was hurrying back to her room. "Stage 1, codename Provision Gathering, is a success," she whispered as the door clicked shut behind her. 4 fruit cups won't feed you all the way to the West Coast, Hop cautioned. "I have plenty of money, too, plus some spectacular wilderness survival skills I learned from Hatchet and Lord of the Flies." Vetiver dropped her heavy bag on the floor and fished out her journal. She tore a page from the back. Stage 2, codename Goodbyes, now in progress. She smoothed the sheet of paper over the cover of her journal and chewed her pencil for a minute before writing. "Dear Mother and Father, though I know you have my best interests at heart, I am also relatively certain I would hate living in New York City. It isn't anything personal, of course. You're nice people, aside from abandoning me for 6 extremely formative years of my life." That's too bitter. Vetiver erased back to, "It isn't anything personal," then continued. "A new opportunity has arisen for me, and I'm convinced I'll be able to travel quite safely, even comfortably." Now for the misleading section. "Hop, where could someone run away that would be cool but also safe?" "You're too young to be cool." The circus, maybe?" "That's a horrible choice. Circuses are extremely dangerous." Instead, she wrote, "I've decided to join the Canadian Foreign Legion." They'll just send a letter and find out that's not true. Good catch, Hop. Vetiver erased, then continued, "Decided to join one of the foreign legions. I assure you I will be absolutely fine. Do not worry about me. Thank you for your care and concern, though the latter is entirely unnecessary. Once again, I will be perfectly fine. Sincerely, Vetiver Westing. P.S. Do not worry." As Vetiver wrote the date at the top of the letter and was folding it up, the door creaked open and her mom came in. Vetiver turned the paper over in what she hoped was a calm manner and began to sweat. "Vetiver, are you ready to eat? The ship is docking in Audio City in 2 hours." Vetiver gestured to the bowl of dry cereal. "Oh, honey, that's so nasty. Don't eat it. I'll give you some real breakfast. And you shouldn't walk around the ship alone. I'll come with you if you need to go somewhere." She turned to leave, then remembered to ask, "Did you sleep okay last night?" "Fabulous." "Good." Sharon exited the room. Vetiver sighed and popped a chunk of cereal into her mouth. "Hop, I can already feel my resolve weakening. It's your mission to keep me committed and my morale high." "How am I supposed to do that?" Instead of answering, Vetiver gathered up the luggage she deemed non-essential and packed it into her suitcase, then carried all of her things into her parents' room. She tucked her farewell letter into her bag and sat on the bed eating cereal until her parents returned from breakfast. "Fred, I still think— Oh! Vetiver, here's some real food." Her mom exchanged Vetiver's bowl with one filled with a mixture of steamed leek and amaranth and threw the cereal in the trash. "I see you've packed all your things, Vetiver," Fred exclaimed. "How efficient of you." "Thanks." "We're nearly in Audio City," Sharon said. She and Fred packed. Hop attempted to fill his mission of keeping Vetiver motivated to escape. They're so awkward around you. It's like they don't know how to act in front of a kid. You're really doing them a favor by getting out of their hair. I think you're right, Vetiver whispered, but not softly enough. What was that, dear? Her mom asked. I said, we should get out of here pretty soon, right? Yes, we should. I've got a hotel booked in Audio City for tonight. Then we'll take a bus from there to Boehm, the nearest town, and bus hop all the way to Inn from there, Fred said. It's a pity we had to turn back at the New Orleans archipelago, Sharon fretted. It used to be such a lively place, but after the revolution, it felt like the life had been drained away. That's partly my fault for trying the sea route during hurricane season, Fred conceded. A mechanized voice buzzed over the ship's PA system. Disembarking, please make your way to the deck. Disembarking. The little family snatched up their bags and suitcases. Although Vetiver's parents had only come to pick her up, they each had twice as much luggage as she did. She took one end of a traveling trunk along with her own bag and suitcase, and Sharon got the other end, along with her sizable purse. Fred wore an overstuffed backpack and hefted a half-full 5-gallon plastic water jug over his broad shoulder. Sharon didn't trust any water from outside of the East Coast Coalition, and he had humored her paranoia. As the three of them made their way out onto the deck, Vetiver whispered to Hop, Stage 3, codenamed Actually Going Through With It, is now in effect. Hop, I'm relying on you to identify the right situation to flee, preferably in a crowded area. How about right now? Not right now. Soon. Thus concludes Chapter 1.